The start is a burial ground. I am my own ghost. The cursor blinks. It is a steady, rhythmic pulse in the center of a void, mocking the silence of the room. It's 2 a.m., the hour when the house finally stops settling and the traffic outside thins into an occasional, distant hum. I have a draft open, a project, a hobby, a half-written plan to reorganize the next 3 months of my life. It has been sitting there for 3 weeks, collecting digital dust, while I stare at it and feel that familiar, heavy tightening in the center of my chest. People look at me and they see someone who is scattered. They see the half-finished books on the nightstand, the gym bag packed but never moved from the corner of the room, the tentative plans for a side hustle that never launched. They call it procrastination. Sometimes, they are kinder, they call it lack of discipline. But that isn't it. It isn't that I am lazy. If I were lazy, I wouldn't be sitting here at this hour, agonizing over why the cursor is the only thing moving. The truth is much quieter, and much more exhausting. I am terrified of the finish line because I am terrified of the process that leads to it. It's the anticipation of the inevitable drop. There is a specific kind of thrill in starting something new. You have the vision, the excitement, the potential of who you could become. But then, the middle happens. The middle is where the friction lives. The middle is where the excitement wears thin, the novelty vanishes, and you are left with just the work, the messy, unglamorous, difficult work. And that is exactly where I always turn around. I don't stop because I've lost interest. I stop because I have already lived through the ending 1,000 times in my head. In my mind, I have already failed. I have already felt the sting of disappointment, the quiet judgment of others, and, worst of all, the crushing weight of knowing I've let myself down again. So, I kill the project before it can fail. I abandon it, safely tucked away in a folder of unfinished things, so that it remains a possibility, a what if that could have been great if I had just kept going. It is a defense mechanism disguised as incompetence. If I never try, I never fail. If I never finish, I never have to face the reality of my own limitations. It's in the small things, too. Like the half-eaten container of expensive yogurt in the back of the fridge. I bought it because I wanted to be the kind of person who eats healthy, who takes care of their body. But now, it's just sitting there, turning sour, and every time I open the fridge, I have to look at it. I don't throw it out, because throwing it out feels like admitting defeat. I just push it further back, behind the milk, hoping if I don't see it, it doesn't count. I move through the day with this invisible tether pulling me back. I am hyper-aware of how I am being perceived. When I speak in meetings, I rehearse the sentence 3 times in my head, analyzing every potential misinterpretation, checking if I sound too aggressive or too soft, until the moment for the contribution has passed. I am constantly editing myself in real time, stripping away the rough edges, the quirks, the actual personality, until I am left with a smoothed-out, beige version of myself that is safe from criticism. But being safe is not the same as being alive. It's just being invisible. And I wonder, when did I become so fragile? When did the possibility of being imperfect become so dangerous that I had to stop moving altogether? I look at the people around me, or at least, the versions of them they present on screens, and I feel a hollow sort of envy. They seem to move through the world with a fluid grace, jumping from one endeavor to the next, failing, laughing, and starting again without a second thought. They treat their lives like a rough draft, something that can be erased and rewritten. I treat mine like a piece of glass that I am terrified of dropping. One wrong move, one bad result, and the whole thing shatters. The irony is that by trying so hard to avoid the pain of disappointment, I have created a life defined by the phantom of it. I am living in the waiting room of my own existence, constantly prepping for a life that I never actually begin. The silence in the room feels thicker now. My fingers hover over the keyboard, but they don't strike. I could type one sentence. Just one. It wouldn't have to be perfect. It wouldn't have to be brilliant. It would just have to be real. But the fear is a physical weight, a hand resting on my shoulder, whispering that it's safer to stop. It's safer to leave the cursor blinking. It's safer to remain a collection of unfulfilled intentions. I am not lazy. I am just a person who has become so adept at calculating the cost of failure that I have forgotten how to place any value on the experience of growth. I am waiting for the permission to be flawed, for the assurance that if I fall, I will still be standing. But that permission doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from the people I'm trying to impress, and it doesn't come from the successes I'm scared to chase. It's a lonely realization that the only person keeping me from the life I want is the version of me that is too scared to be seen failing. We are so afraid of being nothing that we choose to be nothing at all. The cursor keeps blinking. It is the only thing that knows I am still here. It is the only thing that hasn't given up on the page. I stare at the screen until my eyes blur, and for a moment, I wonder if the reason I'm so exhausted is not because of how much I do, but because of how much I carry, the weight of all the ghosts of the things I never finished. I am tired of holding them. I am tired of the safety. I am tired of the silence. But the habit of holding back is deeply etched. It is a muscle that has grown stronger while the others have atrophied. Tonight, I will probably close the laptop. I will go to bed, promising myself that tomorrow will be the day I finally break the pattern, knowing deep down that tomorrow is just another place to hide. And that, more than anything else, is the quietest tragedy of all. Knowing exactly what is wrong, and being too afraid to fix it because the fix requires the one thing I am most terrified of, the vulnerability of being seen, mid-process, messy and unfinished, and doing it anyway.